All right, let's jump into this Louis Vuitton thing. The Tambour ceramic watch. Really interesting release. And I'm kind of fascinated by what LV is doing with their watches in general. They're not afraid to like push some boundaries and try new things. So I'm excited to dig into this with you today. We've got a whole stack of articles and reviews. So let's get right into it. What makes this watch so special?
Well, I think it's safe to say this is more than just like another new model. This is Louis Vuitton really making a play
Mm.
for the high-end sports watch market. They're
Right.
really looking to compete with the likes of Rolex, Audemars Piguet. I mean, that level of competition, they're really aiming high with this release.
Wow, okay. That really puts things in perspective. So, how does this watch actually measure up? How do they plan to compete with those giants?
Well, they started by like completely reimagining the tambour design, right? It's much sleeker now, it's sportier, it's super thin, only 8.6 millimeters.
Yeah.
And they've gone with that integrated bracelet, which gives it a really seamless look and feel.
Yeah, that's a pretty big change from the original tambour. But I'm guessing they kept some of those key tambour elements, right? Like it still looks like a tambour.
Oh, absolutely. It's still got that distinctive drum-shaped case, which is a hallmark of the tambour line. But I think the real statement they're making is with the material and that color combination. They went with brown ceramic and rose gold.
Brown ceramic. That's like not something you see every day, especially on a high-end watch. What's the story behind that choice? Like why brown ceramic?
Well, I think it's a clever nod to their heritage. Like
Yeah.
it's that brown is directly inspired by their, iconic demier and monogram canvases. There's a way of linking this super modern high-tech watch back to their 150-year history in luxury goods.
Oh, I see. So it's not just about being different for the sake of being different, right? It's about like
Mhm.
connecting this watch to the brand's DNA, to those classic elements that people associate with Louis Vuitton. But I gotta ask, from a technical standpoint, brown ceramic, that must be really hard to produce, right?
Oh, incredibly challenging. I mean, you wouldn't believe this, but to achieve that specific shade of brown takes over 90 hours of meticulous work, and that's for each ceramic component.
90 hours. Wow.
Yeah, just imagine, like, artisans layering pigments, carefully firing the ceramic multiple times to get that perfect depth of color. And then on top of all that, they hand finish it to get this super smooth, almost silky texture.
90 hours just for the color. Okay. But let's talk about how the whole watch is constructed. There's something about a hidden element, right? Like a secret part of the case.
Ah, yeah. It's super cool. Like, the case construction is really ingenious. It's kind of hard to visualize. But imagine a rose gold container, right? Like a hidden compartment almost. And that's nestled beneath the brown ceramic exterior. It's like a hidden treasure, waiting to
Oh.
be discovered.
Oh, interesting. So you don't see the rose gold right away when you look at the watch.
Not from the front, no. The brown ceramic completely covers the case. But if you look at the case back, you'll see a little bit of that rose gold peeking through.
Mm.
Like a subtle reminder of,
Mm.
the luxury that's hidden underneath the surface.
I like that. Okay, that's a really cool detail. So we've got brown ceramic, we've got this like secret rose gold element underneath. What about the case finishing itself, though? Is it all just smooth ceramic, or do they do anything else to
Oh,
it?
there's a lot going on. They didn't just leave it plain. The middle of the case has this really cool, like, circular brushed finish, and then the bezel is sandblasted for contrast. And of course, you've got to have those polished LV letters, right? Those really stand out against the bezel. Oh, and they've got an engraved LV crown, too. It's just a really nice mix of textures that, like, catch the light in different ways.
So even though it's, this unexpected brown ceramic, they didn't like skimp on the details. They really went all out with the finishing. What about water resistance? I mean, is this a watch you can actually wear for sports?
Yeah, that's a good question. So it's rated at 50 meters, which is, decent for like everyday wear, but probably not enough for like serious diving. It is a bit lower than the steel version of the Tambour, so that might be because of the challenges of working with ceramic.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, let's talk about the bracelet, which I hear is a pretty big deal with this redesign. What makes it so special?
Well, first of all, it's fully integrated into the case, right?
Hmm.
Which is something you always see on those like super high-end sports watches. But what's really innovative here is how they've combined the brown ceramic and the rose gold. Imagine the bracelet like a serpent, right? With a flexible rose gold backbone that provides like the structure and support.
Okay, I can picture that. So the rose gold is like the skeleton and the ceramic is the skin.
Exactly. Perfect analogy. And then the ceramic links, they're actually anchored to that rose gold backbone with screws. So that gives it this secure but also flexible feel on the wrist. Oh, and then they've added these polished rose gold bars between the ceramic links, which adds a little bit of, visual interest, that two-tone effect that's so popular right now.
It's all about those subtle details, those luxurious touches. What about the clasp itself? Is there anything special about that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. That's another highlight. It's a triple folding clasp made entirely of rose gold, beautifully finished and like seamlessly integrated into the bracelet. Even the pins on the sides of the bracelet are hidden. So it has this super smooth and elegant profile.
Ah, they really thought of everything. But let's not forget about the heart of the watch, right? The movement. What can you tell us about what makes this tambour ceramic tick?
Well, it's powered by the LFT-023, which is an automatic movement that was developed by Louis Vuitton's La Fabrique du Temps. That's their, high-end watchmaking atelier. This movement has actually been used in some of their other tambour and scale models. It's a real workhorse, very reliable.
This is a proven movement. Okay. What makes it special, though? Like, why would they choose this one for this watch?
Well, for one thing, it has a 50-hour power reserve, which is pretty impressive. And it's got a 22K rose gold micro rotor, which is a really nice touch. But most importantly, it's chronometer certified by the Geneva Chronometric Observatory. So that means it's been rigorously tested for accuracy. And it's not just about performance, though. They've also decorated the movement beautifully. You can actually see it through the sapphire caseback.
Oh, that's cool. Speaking of details that echo the LV heritage, let's take a closer look at the dial. It looks just as intricate as the case, right?
Oh, absolutely. The dial is like a symphony of textures, just like the case. You've got a vertically brushed center, a sandblasted hour ring, and then a snailed small seconds counter. It's all about creating depth and visual interest.
I'm sensing a theme here. Lots of different finishes playing off of each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then, to top it all off, you have those rose gold numerals and indices, which really pop against that brown background. It's another subtle nod to the LV monogram colors. And it just creates this really sophisticated, refined look.
It's all about those little details. I also see the hands and numerals have superluminova, so you can actually tell the time in the dark, which is, important for a sports watch, right?
Absolutely. Form and function in perfect harmony. But, going back to the movement for just a second, this LFT-023 is more than just a reliable engine. It really represents a significant investment that Louis Vuitton has made in their watchmaking capabilities.
Tell me more about that.
So, a few years ago, they acquired La Fabrique du Temps, which is this incredible atelier in Geneva filled with some of the best watchmakers in the world. And they've been pouring resources into developing their own movements,
Yeah.
in-house movements. And the LFT-023 is like a prime example of that commitment.
So it's more than just a watch. It's a statement of intent, like Louis Vuitton is serious about horology and they're here to stay.
Exactly. And when you look at the movement through the case back, you can really see the level of care that they put into it. The bridges are micro sandblasted. The main plate is circular grained. They even engraved the micro rotor with this stylized LV tapestry pattern. It's gorgeous.
Wow, that's incredible. Sounds like they really considered every single detail inside and out. I know this is a luxury watch, but let's talk about the elephant in the room, the price. What are we looking at here?
All right, brace yourself. This Camber ceramic retails for 75,000 euros.
Okay, yeah, that's a significant investment for sure. But I mean, for that price, you're getting a watch with incredible craftsmanship, these unique materials, and a design that's really pushing boundaries. It's not just a watch, right? It's more like a statement piece.
Exactly. It's for someone who, appreciates the finer things in life.
Yeah.
And isn't afraid to stand out. Someone who understands that a watch can be more than just a time-telling device, right? It can be a work of art, a conversation starter, a reflection of your personal style.
Yeah, I get that. So for you, what's the most captivating aspect of this watch?
Honestly, I think it's the audacity of that brown ceramic. It's such an unexpected choice in a world that's, dominated by black or white ceramic watches.
Yeah.
Louis Vuitton took a risk, and I think it paid off. It's luxurious without being, ostentatious. It's bold, but not flashy. It's just cool.
Yeah, it's a really smart move. It definitely sets this watch apart. And it reinforces that image of Louis Vuitton as, a trendsetter in the luxury world. Do you think this could spark a new trend? Will we see other brands experimenting with colored ceramic?
It's definitely possible. I mean, Louis Vuitton has a history of pushing boundaries, and other brands often follow their lead. Imagine a world of, vibrant ceramic watches.
Yeah.
Deep blues, rich greens, fiery reds. It would be a revolution in watch design.
Yeah, that would be so cool to see. But for now, let's focus on the impact of this tambour ceramic. Do you think this release signals a shift in Louis Vuitton's watchmaking strategy?
I think it's more than just a new watch. It's a real declaration of their ambition to become a major player in the high-end sports watch market. They're going head-to-head with, some of the most established brands, and they're doing it with confidence.
It's a bold move, but based on what we've seen so far, it
Yeah.
seems like they've got the craftsmanship, the design, the resources to really pull it off. What do you think the reaction from the watch community will be?
I think it'll be really interesting to watch, no pun intended. Some collectors might be hesitant about the brown ceramic, I think. But many will appreciate its uniqueness and the connection to Louis Vuitton's heritage. Of course, the price tag will be a barrier for some. But for those who can afford it, this watch offers something truly special, I think.
It's a statement piece, for sure. It's
Might be.
definitely got people talking. Now, I want to shift gears a bit and talk about something that's been on my mind. Throughout this whole deep dive,
I'm all ears.
we've been focusing a lot on, the technical aspects, the design, the market positioning. But what about the emotional connection? What does a watch like this say about the person wearing it?
That's a great question. I think it speaks to a certain sense of individuality, a willingness to embrace the unconventional. It's for someone who appreciates, you know, craftsmanship and artistry, who understands the value of heritage, but also innovation. It's for someone who wants to make a statement, but not through loudness or, bling, but through subtle elegance and sophistication.
It's a watch for someone who, appreciates the finer details, the hidden treasures, the stories behind the objects they choose to surround themselves with. It's about more than just telling time, right? It's about expressing a certain perspective on the world.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Mm.
And in a world that's, so saturated with mass-produced goods, that kind of individuality is becoming increasingly rare and valuable.
This deep dive has really opened my eyes to the world of, high-end watchmaking. It's so much more than just gears and springs. It's about passion, artistry,
Yeah.
and this relentless pursuit of excellence.
It's a world where time isn't just measured, it's crafted. And the Tambour ceramic is a perfect example of that. It's a watch that tells a story of heritage, innovation, and ambition.
And it's a story that resonates with me, even though I might not be in the market for a $75,000 watch anytime soon.
I understand. But that's the beauty of horology, I think. You don't have to be a millionaire to appreciate the artistry and craftsmanship that goes into these timepieces. There's a whole world of fascinating watches out there at every price point.
That's a good point. So for our listeners who might be feeling, a bit overwhelmed by all the luxury here, what advice would you give them? Where should they go from here?
I'd say. Just explore. Visit a watch boutique, browse online forums, read watch magazines, learn about different brands, styles, movements, discover what speaks to you, what sparks your curiosity, and don't be afraid to ask questions. The watch community is generally very welcoming and passionate about sharing their knowledge.
That's great advice. It's about finding what you connect with, whether it's a vintage timepiece with a rich history or a modern marvel of engineering. There's a watch out there for everyone.
And who knows, maybe one day our listener will be diving deep into their own collection of incredible timepieces. The journey starts with a single step, or perhaps a single tick.
That's a good one. Beautifully said. Now, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive, I want to share a thought that's been on my mind.
Go for it.
This tambour ceramic, with that, bold use of brown ceramic, and the way it connects to Louis Vuitton's heritage, it got me thinking about the future of luxury watch design. Do you think we'll see more brands embracing their history in such a visible way, or will the focus shift even more towards, futuristic materials and technologies?
That's a fascinating question. And I honestly don't have a crystal ball, so I don't know for sure. But I do think there's this growing appreciation for heritage and craftsmanship in the luxury world. People are craving authenticity, a connection to something meaningful.
And in a world of, fast fashion and disposable technology, a watch that embodies, history and tradition almost feels like a rebellion in a way.
Yeah, it's a statement of enduring value, of something that transcends trends and, fleeting fads.
So for our listeners, maybe this is something to think about. As you explore the world of watches, pay attention to how brands are interpreting their heritage, their DNA. Do they stay true to their roots, or do they reinvent themselves completely? It's a fascinating lens through which to view, the evolution of design and craftsmanship.
And ultimately, it's up to each individual to decide what resonates with them. What stories do you want your watch to tell?
That's a great question to leave our listeners with. What stories do you want your watch to tell? What values do you want it to represent? It's more than just a timepiece, right? It's a reflection of who you are.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached a good stopping point for this first part of our deep dive into the Louis Vuitton Tambour ceramic.
But the conversation doesn't have to end here. We'll pick up right where we left off in the next part of the show.
Right, so stay tuned. We were talking about the watch community's reaction to the tambour ceramic. And I think, some might be skeptical at first,
Hmm.
especially given the price tag. 75,000 euro is a lot of money for a watch.
It is. But wouldn't you say that, for someone who can afford it, this watch offers something truly unique?
Absolutely. I mean, you're not just buying a timepiece, you're buying a piece of Louis Vuitton's heritage. You're buying into a level of craftsmanship that's just exceptional.
Right, and you're making a statement. You're saying, I appreciate quality, I appreciate design, and I'm not afraid to be bold.
Exactly.
One thing I keep coming back to is that brown ceramic. It's so unexpected, so different.